Hey, welcome back to Whitetail Garage. We're gonna try and get the Black Widow driving again. Yeah, so it's been sitting for so long, and you could tell by how long it's been since I posted a video. Been a while, been going through some things, haven't been in the garage. We've been driving Rita around quite a bit. She's still good to go, but the Widow's over there in the corner. Hasn't moved in a while, and the last time I tried to give it a start, all she did was crank. So we're gonna fiddle with that. With just a crank, it's fuel or spark, I would think. I am hearing the fuel pump. I do get fuel pressure, so maybe it's not good fuel because it's been sitting for a while, or maybe I'm not getting spark, and who knows what's going on with that. So we're gonna get Rita out and start, pop the hood, see what we got on the Widow. Well, Rita's got a couple of leaks. Transmission fluid, I know where that's from. I've got a union in the tranny line that I'm not excited about, but that's the way it is. So I need to try and tighten that back up and see if I can get anything out of it to keep it from leaking. It's not terrible. Every time I check, it's never changed, you know, so it's just enough to where it's over time it'll impact it. I just got to keep the transmission full. And then oil leak, that's that awesome distributor that I got from Amazon, or some folks call the Jungle website. It's a great distributor with the exception of it does leak when it's running. So this is just residual that falls off the distributor for what does collect while it's running. It's not a ton, but it's enough. And so that's a thing I want to go back and fix. It's down the road. Frankly, I'm hoping I go V8 before I even worry about fixing. Go V8 in her before I worry about fixing the distributor on the 200. So anyways, back to the Widow. You could see she is dusty. Been sitting for a while, unfortunately, and like I said, I tried to crank and she didn't crank, or she did crank, didn't start. So I believe the battery's disconnected, so let's get in there and reconnect it, and I assume we'll get the same exact thing where she'll crank and not start. Gotta love those big old round Ford keys. Well, darn, I just saw that I did not disconnect it, which means the battery's probably completely dead. Let's check it. All right, come on, Fluke, give me some good news. Tell me that we haven't had much of a drain on this battery. We've had a little bit of a drain on the battery. All right, so we're probably not gonna be able to crank for very long before I need to put it on a charger, but let's see what she got. All right, you can see we got fuel pressure. Nothing. Not even a bark. So let's pop the hood. Love these buttons. Go back and watch that video if you haven't seen it. Easy install, and I think they look way nicer than those classic push pin jobbers I used to have. Okay, we're checking for spark. Got the remote start. See what happens. Definitely see spark, so spark is not our issue. All right, so we definitely have spark. Fuel is there because I'm getting pressure. Now, is it junk fuel, or the injector's all plugged up? I guess that's possible. It's odd that I don't have any bark at all, even with really bad fuel. And this hasn't been parked for years. It's only been parked for a couple of months with me coming out here starting it randomly, and then I went probably 3 or 4 months without starting it at all, somewhere in there. So I bet it's probably 6-month-old fuel, so probably bad fuel, but I don't think it's bad enough where I wouldn't get any light at all. So I find that kind of interesting, for it to not bark or stumble or do anything. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a little different kind of fuel. Is this stuff still flammable? Yeah, it's still flammable. You never know nowadays. Now they're taking all the good stuff out of everything. Okay, that's still flammable. So we're going to use some brake clean to try and get it to just bark off, make sure all that's good. Maybe we'll get a few revolutions and heat up the engine. Maybe we can free up some injectors. I'm going to start with that. I'll start listening to the injectors in a minute. I don't have a ton of battery, so I don't want to keep cranking forever. So if I can kind of get it past this hurdle with some brake clean, I'm going to try that. I know it's not likely, but it's worth a shot. So that's where I'm going next. All right, so it'll bark if it has fuel. So the fact that I've got fuel pressure, unknown quality of fuel, but there's definitely liquid there, should be enough to bark. So I'm gonna double check the injector ground, because I know the injector harness on these factory Fox bodies, it grounds out back there, so maybe that's bad. I mean, it hasn't moved, so I doubt it. It's very likely fuel. And I have some not Supreme or not 93 octane, but some, lawnmower fuel in the shed. I can add a little bit of fuel, so I've got, add to the octane maybe, but yeah, I don't know what else to do. So I'll check the ground while it's charging. I've got it on the battery charger, cranked up to boil, and then I'm gonna probably add just a little bit of fuel from the lawnmower gas can, see if that gets a difference, and then check the ground. I think I already said that. So I'll do that and report back. All right, well, just found right around 3 gallons of fuel. I don't think this is lawnmower fuel in this jug. I think it is 93 to go in here, but if it is, it's as old as the fuel that's in the tank, so, or pretty close to it. So we're gonna dump it in, see if we get any different result. I really don't believe I'll get a different result, but it's worth a shot. And I checked the ground. So my injector ground comes out of the harness, and you're probably not gonna be able to see it. Let me see if I can get you in there. So that ground strap right there that's not being focused on, right there, loops around, goes back to that head bolt. I've got that, you see that orange wire way back there, that's my injector harness ground. It goes to that same bolt on the back of the cylinder head. And so because they're aluminum cylinder heads, I want to make sure I take the ground from the chassis to the back of the head to the cab, and then the cab is grounded also to the bell housing on the other side, and so which has got bolts going through to the block. So we've got grounds, connecting all of it. I'm big on grounds. So grounding is not an issue. Oh, the other thing I did, so taking 12 volt power at the battery with the charger on it is 13.52 right now. So I should get relatively the same hitting against that ground, or let's say against this hot source. So this is hot. I've got for those of you that didn't follow, my solenoid is hidden right up in there, and I've just got wire running to here, so I always have a hot source inside the engine compartment like you would normally run, or like you'd normally pop off from the solenoid that usually sits right there. So I just put that there. So anyways, 12 volts right here. I should get relatively little voltage drop from the battery to here with nothing running. So I don't. And so 12 volts to multiple places on the engine, the ground at the firewall, the ground at the back of the head. All of that gives me no voltage drop whatsoever. I see 13.52, so I don't think it's a bad ground. I'm really kind of left to bad injectors, plugged injectors, or something going on with the CPU itself. Or not the CPU, the you know what I'm saying, PCM, power control module, whatever it is, the computer. So double check the connection on the computer. I don't think the fuel pump would run without the computer having a good connection, because I'm still using the key signal, which runs through the computer and through the fuel pump relay on the floor back to the back. I think all that's still hooked up, so I don't think it's the computer. So other non-start scenarios, maybe the mass air. Again, like I said, it ran sitting here for a while and then it just didn't run. So I really think it's fuel. Let me get that fuel in and we'll try and crank it one more time and see what happens. I'm totally premature on this because the battery hasn't had a chance to recharge at all, but it's at 13.5. I've got the charger cranked up. I've just put a gallon more of fuel in it that is presumably good fuel, and then I'm going to spray some extra incentive with this and see what we get. So heat on. Here we go. All right, next step, I'm just going to double check, make sure we're getting signal at the injector. So I have an old set of these little node lights or Noid lights, or, you know, the little injector test lights. So I'm going to pull the first one off right here and crank it, see what happens. Gotta be frisky, huh? Gotta be careful with these harnesses, they're old. There we go. Alright. So this guy is clearly not the right one. See if that works. Alright, key on, and let's try this. Okay, so injectors are firing. Alright, so the injectors are firing. We do have fuel. Apparently not great fuel, but we have fuel. We know we have spark. We know we have air. So, could be timing, but when I give it a different fuel, it fires off and barks. I guess I don't want to double down, but I think I'm going to double down on the amount of fuel in the tank. See if that makes anything any better. All right, I have not changed anything. I added more fuel. I don't think that's going to do anything, but I'm kind of desperate, so I'm going to try it. All right, my next plan, I've tried everything. Even shot a little Berryman's into the throttle. Nothing. So I'm not getting anything, any kind of bark outside of the fuel that I'm providing. So my assumption is, I know I'm getting electricity, a signal to the injectors. I know I'm getting spark in the cylinder. I know my timing is decent because it's decent. I don't know if it's spot on. It should be decent. It was spot on before, but now it's not running right. Maybe it twisted a little bit. I mean, when it runs on the fuel, the brake cleaner, the Berryman's, it does run decent. So I'm thinking clogged injectors. So this rail is pretty easy to get to, the passenger side rail. I'm going to see if I can take that off, get 4 injectors out, get them sitting in cleaner while this thing is charging. And maybe we'll get 4 cylinders to bark off and maybe just run really poorly before I have to take the intake off and do the other side. I find it odd that all 8 are not functioning properly. That's really interesting to me. I guess it's possible, but interesting, I'll say. So let me start pulling that off. All right. These rails are held on with a bolt through the rail with a spacer on the backside to lift them up off the intake. Easy to remove so long as you can chase down your spacer. A real pain to put back in. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there though. Alright, both bolts removed, the harness is removed. So now I'm going to pry it with a screwdriver. Gently. Okay, and okay, so the rail's loose now. Now, there's one injector. Those look dry on that side, wet on that side. Dry on that side. I don't know if you can really tell that. This one's wet on that side, but it may have just been from okay. Lots of fuel leaking out of that rail. Alright, I have taken this rail out. I didn't show it, but taking this rail out, I've taken every single injector out. I hit it with Berryman on both sides of the injector and reinstalled it. It's quite a bit sweatier now because I've been here for a while fighting this injector rail to get back on. So I'm plugging in the harness now. Now, I will say, the fuel that came out of this rail did not smell like fuel. It smelled terrible. Absolutely terrible. So, it probably is just terrible fuel, and I haven't got enough of the decent fuel up. So I'll fiddle with this a little bit longer, but if I can't, I'm probably going to have to drain it and add new fuel. So let's turn the key on and see what she does when she cranks. Well, I thought that was promising because I hadn't added fuel, but maybe that was leftover fuel. So I think it's just got really, really bad fuel. Alright, she's running. No smoke. It seems to be correcting itself. I think I had a lot of bad gas sitting in the rails, maybe. Alright, let's try this again. So I killed it after letting it get up to temp. You can see it's setting at temp, so let's see if it fires up again. Fires up. Alright. I'm gonna back out and check tire pressure because I know the front two tires are low. Alright, short test drive, and everything went just fine. Went ahead and pulled them back in already. So next step, pull this thing out and get it shiny and clean again. Thanks for watching. That's what I was working on this weekend. We'll see you next time.